Their love language is play. Their love language is fun. So you want to make sure that you do. I played hard with little kids, and that's part of why I got respect, because I was able to do the hard stuff because I knew I was doing enough of the loving, right? If you're playing with your kids and having fun with them, I had no guilt whatsoever when I disciplined because I knew their love bucket was full. Hi, welcome to the BratBusters Parenting Podcast. This episode is number 3, and it's on Toddler Tantrums. And I'm just laughing because, boy, this comes up an awful lot. And they drive you nuts. I get it. We're going to go through this, and hopefully I'll be able to help you through the next tantrum or two. Oh, sorry. My daughter's with me. My name's Lisa Bunnage. I'm a parenting coach, and she's sitting right here. Amy Bunnage, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm Amy. I do marketing, social media, planning for BratBusters.
I wanted to make that clear. She's not just with me. She's like a partner in the business, so she runs all the back end stuff. So she's not a guest. She's really runs all this stuff. So anyway.
More of a guest on this podcast, though, simply because I don't have kids. So I'm just asking the questions that maybe you might have.
Yeah. Okay. So first of all, I just want to say toddler tantrums are one of the 4 things that kids are born to do or they're never going to do. So now it's not your fault that they have them, but it is your responsibility to train them out of them. So they're either going to be born to do one of these 4 things or all 4 or 3 of them, whatever, or they're never going to do them. One is tantrums, obviously. Another one is climbing. Another one is running, like running away from you. They have no fear. Climbers and runners often go together because they have no physical fear. They don't have fear of danger. They don't always go together, though. And the last one is hitting, like physical aggression. They're either going to do it or they're never going to do it. But tantrums is, I would say, hitting is pretty common too, though. But I would say tantrums is the one that drives parents the most nuts because it can go on for years. And tantrums can end, when you know how to deal with them correctly, they can end by about 3.5 to 4. They should be having their last tantrum around that age. So that's the goal here. So we have some questions, and I'll just sort of yabber on about tantrums as we're going through the questions.
So this episode, the questions that we've selected, they're mainly around toddler tantrums. Do you approach toddler tantrums the same as like if they're a little bit older?
They are pretty much exactly the same.
Okay. And then, so you said not all kids have tantrums, so.
No. By the way, older kids, a little bit different, but generally the same, the way we deal with it. But let's get going, and then I might point out some differences if they're older.
Okay, so first we have Jill from Canada. What do I do when my 2-year-old hits and throws things when he's upset, sad, or frustrated? Not because he's not getting something he wants. Do I treat it the same as a regular tantrum?
Oh, so it is a tantrum, because she just said hitting and throwing things. There's a difference between kids who hit, throw, toss things, bite, whatever, and then kids who do that during a tantrum. That's different. So let's assume he's having a tantrum and he's doing that stuff, okay? So we're talking toddler tantrums basically here. And this sort of will lean into what you do differently if they're older. Okay, so if a toddler's having a tantrum and they're getting physically violent, kicking, not screaming you can't do anything about, but if they're really getting wild and hitting you, so you just physically restrain them from hitting themselves, hitting you or anybody else, or damaging property. You physically hold them, but you still don't look at them or talk to them. The way you deal with a tantrum is you just completely ignore it. You're just standing nearby, and you want them to see you waiting for it to end. So you don't just ignore it by leaving the room, or you don't go on a phone, you don't get into a conversation with someone. I think that's dismissive and rude. So you want them to understand that you're standing there waiting for their tantrum to end. If they do get violent during the tantrum, you physically restrain them, but you still don't look at them and talk to them. You're just standing there ignoring them. You're filing your nails, look like you're waiting for a bus, look like you're bored out of your mind. But it's important that they know you're standing there aware that they're having a tantrum, but you're waiting for it to end. And then you just physically restrain them for a minute or so, let them go. If they come at you again or start throwing things again, hold them again. They're going to hate it, but they're also learning a lesson. Remember, the bigger the scene, the bigger the meltdown, fit, or tantrum, the bigger the lesson. So just don't feed it. Feeding it, any attention is tantrum food. And holding them and restraining them is sort of attention, but not really. You're just preventing any damage. So anyway, okay, that's good enough for now. I'm sure other stuff will come up.
So to clarify, it's not always just because they didn't get what they want when they wanted it. This person says it's just because their toddler's upset.
But upset at what? I don't quite... Yeah. Just because they're upset. The only reason that any of us get upset is when things don't go our way.
I see. So maybe
Think about it. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
They didn't get what they want because things didn't go their way. Why else would you be upset? Now, if they're upset because they're hungry or tired or sick, then you pick them up and cuddle them and look after them, feed them, put them to bed. You meet their needs and manage their wants. If they're just upset because they're upset, that is because they're not getting their own way. I don't understand why that would be any different from not getting their own way.
I do want to clarify as well, because you talk about meeting needs, managing wants. What else do you include in needs?
Needs? Oh, food, shelter, love, play, being taught right from wrong. You know, this isn't because we want to raise good kids, which is a byproduct. We do. But the main goal is we want to raise kids who like themselves, who are proud of themselves. Kids who are acting out have very little pride or dignity, and they know it. So you're not doing them any favors by letting this happen. Now, toddlers will continue to have tantrums even though you're doing everything right. They're going to keep going for a while because it's that, what is that, frontal lobe or something, that impulse control. Their brain just hasn't developed yet. If they're prone to having tantrums, they're going to keep having them. But you will see them diminish in intensity, duration, and frequency if you use this method. But they might get worse when you first start doing this because they remember the old you who used to feed it by giving it attention. Also, what if they want a hug? I'm talking a lot here, but anyway, what if they say, I want a hug? And that just, no, that's not a love hug. That's a validate me, validate my tantrum. That's what that is. They're hitting you. Why ignoring me? Why? Just ignore them. Just let it go. And then right after a tantrum, I need a hug. And you just say, you're all right. You want to read a book? You see, make light of it because you don't want to validate anything around a tantrum. You don't want to validate them right after a tantrum because that's kind of saying, oh, that's a good tantrum. Way to go. So yeah, you don't want to validate that, but they will survive this. If they feel if they feel unloved as a result of you ignoring a tantrum, you got bigger fish to fry. There's other stuff going on. They get this. They know they're trying to manipulate you, but I need a hug. They don't. That's not a love hug. That's a validate me, I can control you hug. It's a manipulative hug. They'll survive. They'll be okay. You're right there. You're all right. You want to read a book? Just pat them on the back, but no big scene, no big like, oh, it's okay, my little angel. It makes you look like you feel bad for them. You don't feel bad for them because they just had a tantrum. You don't feel anything. Just let it go. It's part of their process. Is it annoying? Oh, yes. You know what? I don't mind tantrums as much as whining. Whining for me is like nails on a chalkboard. Oh, I'd rather nails on a chalkboard for sure. I can't stand whining. That's my least favorite thing.
I think that was why I wanted to clarify the needs aspect, though, is that you're assuming that this parent is playing with their kid, filling up their bucket, like giving them enough attention during
Well,
this.
that's another podcast, is what are their needs? That's a whole other thing. I think we'd have to make that a different one.
We would, but I just wanted to clarify that.
No, that's
because
right.
I do understand some people take that and they just think that you're totally ignoring your kid all the time, but that's not your...
Gosh, no. I mean, I talk about discipline all the time because that's what people ask me. But in coaching, that is not what we talk about. We talk about connecting with your kids. Disciplining is a small part of this, something you have to get over. Just get it done. But the main thing that I'm teaching is how to connect with your kids. And you can't connect with a kid who's acting like a maniac. So you want to address that stuff.
Okay, next question. So we have Sabrina from the US. My daughter is almost 19 months old and has tantrums when I don't pick her up. It's tough because I can't be consistent as I do want to hold her sometimes, but I just wasn't sure if I'm supposed to follow through as if it's a normal tantrum or if I do something different.
Well, if I don't pick her up, you mean all the time? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, how often does she want to be picked up? She's 19 months old, so she's well into the toddler stage. Like, I consider that 16 months and over is toddler stage. So I would say if she wants to be picked up all the time, I say, you're okay. And then I'd try and redirect her. I'd say, you're okay. You want to read a book? And so start reading with her and then give her a book to sit with. So you've got to keep redirecting that. But you can say, you're all right. But if she starts having a tantrum to try and be picked up, that's different. If she's just demanding it, that's what I was talking about. But once she starts having that tantrum, that's when you have to ignore her. But if you feel like, oh, pick me up. No, you're all right. Want to read a book? You can pat her on the shoulder, give her a little leg to shoulder hug, one of those because she's little. So, and then just say, come on, let's go. We're going to go look at this, and then get her started on something else. So what you're teaching her is you're redirecting her that she's not in charge of you, but you're more in charge of her. And that's what you want. You're a leader, right? You're her leader. She's just tiny. So you want to be in charge of them.
Next question is Frida from Indonesia. So 2 years old, is whiny and switches into a tantrum every time before lunch. Doesn't want to eat.
I'd have to ask more questions about that. Why does she snack a lot? Why doesn't she want to eat? Is she not hungry? Are you trying to feed a kid who's already got a full belly? What snacks has she had? A lot of parents think that kids need to eat more than they do. And I'm not a nutritionist or a doctor, so I can't really get into this. But I'm wondering if she truly is hungry, because you said she has a fit before lunch and then she doesn't want to eat. So yeah, I don't want to get into what you're feeding her, but that's my gut reaction. Is she really hungry? Is she already full? Is she had too much to eat earlier? And yeah, I'd have too many questions around that one, because you're meeting her needs. She should want to eat. And why is she having a tantrum right before lunch? If she's hungry, she should be excited to get in the high chair. Or is it the high chair? But you said lunch, not dinner, not breakfast. So maybe lunch is just too many snacks around that time. And maybe she knows how old is she? 2?
2.
Okay, maybe she knows that if she holds out and doesn't eat lunch, then you'll get her something good. You might say, okay, well, you didn't have any lunch. I better feed her some ice cream. So maybe that's it too. Maybe she's cluing into that. That could be it. She's holding out for the good stuff. But I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on there.
Need follow-up questions on that one.
Yeah.
So next question is Tracy from the United States. Our 2-year-old whines and tantrums, and we always end up having to divert his attention to get the whining and tantrum to stop, because no matter how long we ignore it, he just continues to cry and scream. In a single incident, how long do we wait for him to stop on his own? Secondly, when he does stop and we try to move on, he goes back to crying and tantruming. What can we do as leaders to help him get over this hump?
Well, you already kind of answered your own question, because you said, can you read the very first part?
Our 2-year-old whines and tantrums, and we always end up having to divert his attention.
There we go. You're using diversion. And diversion, you never divert with broccoli, right? You divert with something fun. So he's learned that if I act up, you'll give me something fun. So that's what he's learned. It's a learned behavior. He's 2. He's going to keep having them for a while still, but he's learning how to manipulate you. He's learning how to tantrum to get a diversion, which is fun. Like I said, you're probably not diverting with broccoli, right? It's usually something candy or a fun thing to do. So yeah, I would disengage from that tantrum and make sure you're playing with him enough too. Make sure that you are filling up his fun bucket. Okay, is that okay? Anyway, make sure you are filling up his fun bucket. Maybe he isn't having enough fun. Maybe the diversion is your fun and that's the only fun he's getting. So make sure you're playing with him a lot too, so that when you do back off and you won't give in, there's no guilt because you've already just played hide and seek for 20 minutes. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of parents don't play enough. Their love language is play. Their love language is fun. So you want to make sure that you do. I played hard with little kids, and that's part of why I got respect, because I was able to do the hard stuff because I knew I was doing enough of the loving, right? If you're playing with your kids and having fun with them, I had no guilt whatsoever when I disciplined, because I knew their love bucket was full. I was playing with them all the time. Am I right, sweetheart? My little girl? She's 29 now, but is that about right?
Yeah.
I played with you a
balanced.
lot. It was.
Well, more balanced than, you know what I mean?
Well, I didn't have to discipline them. They were easy kids because I got all that respect when they were little. But yeah, you're giving in too much. You're allowing him to control you.
Okay, we have the final question here. Rose from the UK. So 2-year-old, how do I manage tantrums and refusal to get dressed every single morning? It's a battle to get out of the house without a huge meltdown that takes ages and results in me wrestling her down just to get her clothes on.
Yeah. She's 2. If it's only been going on for a month, it might just end. So you do wrestle her and get her clothes on. Do you negotiate with her before that or just do it? So if I said, okay, we're getting dressed and we're going, there would have been no lag time between me saying that and that happening. I take action. As soon as I said something's going to happen, it happened, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I said, we're going to brush your teeth now. They knew within 30 seconds that toothbrush would be in their mouth. They could either do it themselves or I was going to do it for them. So it's not mean. It's just following through with what you say. Okay, we're heading out. We're going to get you dressed now. And then they may end up with their pants on their head. I don't care. Just get clothes on their body and get them in the car. So you just won the battle. Doesn't matter if they're dressed properly. You can fix them up later when you get where you're going. But yeah, you got to teach them that there's no lag time between what you say and what you're going to do. I think they're kind of learning, because my kids are pretty little when they knew when I said something, it was going to happen, like right away. So they just didn't tend to fight me. They went through a stage, but it didn't last very long. So yeah, make sure there's no lag time and no negotiating. Okay, do you want to wear this? Do you want to wear that? Oh, big mistake. They're going to take charge if you start doing that. Makes you look weak, like you're begging them. If you wear this, will you go? Yeah, you got to watch that. Just say, okay, we're going to get dressed now. Here's the clothes. And then get them on them. Like I said, they may end up with a leg in an armhole. Doesn't matter. Just put those clothes on them and get out the door.
Because I guess it looks like they can change your mind and they know it.
Well, generally they don't, even at 2, they've already learned if you're good at this, they don't tend to fight you even at 2 because they know once you've said something. So that is the key. They think they can win. They don't tend to do that so much once they know they're never going to win. At 2, they'll do that at 1, 1.5, but not so much at 2.
Okay. That was it for the questions. Do you have any stories that you want to tell about tantrums that might give people a good idea?
Yeah, I've got a couple. What should I tell I'll tell the mall story. I like that story. Anyway, the mall story, true story about my son. He was 3 years old and it was his second to last tantrum. He had another one about 3.5 years old. He didn't have a lot of them, but he had them. He was pretty good at them. Anyway, he and I are walking through the mall. We're just going out to the car. He didn't mind leaving. We'd just been grocery shopping, so he didn't care. Anyway, so we're going out to the car and he just threw himself on the ground, started having a tantrum. And I'm like, geez, what? So I just took out my nail file and I'm just filing away. Well, it's a pen, but anyway, you're on the podcast. I'm holding a pen. But anyway, so I'm filing my nails with my pen or whatever. So I'm filing my nails and I'm just waiting. I'm not looking at him. I'm not talking to him. I'm just waiting for it to end. Now, he was used to this, so he knew this wasn't going to work with me. Anyway, so I'm just standing there, and I guess I was calling attention to myself because I'm standing there with a screaming kid and I'm filing my nails. It was a very loud, busy mall, so we weren't disturbing anyone, so that wasn't the problem. Anyway, all these young mums kept coming up to me saying, oh, you should give him a hug. He needs talk about his feelings. I'm like, oh, good. So anyway, I'm like, okay, thank you. Off you go. But all these grandmothers and mums with older kids kept coming up to me saying, you know what you're doing. I'm saying, yeah, I know what I'm doing. The tantrum lasted maybe 2 or 3 minutes, and then he stood up. As soon as he was done, I said, oh, you all done? Okay, let's go to the parking lot. You never discuss a tantrum before, during, or after. You're a part of it if you do. I never acknowledge a tantrum. It's a waste of time. It's just going to make it worse. So yeah, and then we went to the parking lot and he never said another word about it. And he only had one more tantrum. And that was it. So tantrums are something that they will peter out if they don't work. Just make sure they never, ever work.
Because I've heard you say it's not like kids typically tantrum by themselves.
Well, they rarely go in a room all by themselves and tantrum. They're doing it to get something out of you. And that could just be you talking to them, looking at them, getting upset, or giving in and giving them what they want. So any attention is tantrum food. So that's why they are so ignored by me if they're having a tantrum, because I know it's good for them. And the tantrum's going to be a lot shorter, so it's good all around. By the way, their tantrums emotionally are nowhere near as dramatic and upsetting as they look. Okay, they recover. You're the one who's a mess afterwards. They recover from them. They're fine.
Are they bad behavior?
No, not at all. A tantrum is not bad behavior. It's just a loss of emotional control at not getting what they want, when they want, and how they want it. That's why we ignore that. We don't have a consequence for it because it's not bad behavior. It's just kind of going into crazy zone.
Okay, so this isn't something when they're older that could go on the behavior board.
Never. It's not bad behavior. And if they're tantruming past the age of 4, you really want to check out my boot camp course because that teaches you how to be a leader. And then, or at the very least, you can look at my behavior board. That's completely free. They shouldn't be having tantrums past the age of 4. Okay. If you're a leader, they won't.
I think that was everything. Any closing remarks on tantrums?
No, just that I know they drive you insane, and I get that. I'm very sympathetic towards that, but I know how to make them diminish in intensity, duration, and frequency, and that's what you want. So you're going to have to go through the storm to get to the rainbow. You just don't give in to that tantrum. Let them go.
We'll end there.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in. If you're ready to dive deeper, check out BratBusters.com to learn more about the behavior board, parenting courses, and private one-on-one coaching with Lisa. The information provided in this podcast is for general informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional advice. Lisa is a parenting coach, mom, and grandmother. She is not a licensed psychologist or counselor. Her services do not replace the care of psychologists or other healthcare professionals. For a full disclaimer, please visit BratBusters.com/disclaimer.